The 2024 season has long been over, and the 2025 season gets closer each and every day. But just because the Detroit Lions season didn't end where we all wish it did, doesn't mean that there weren't memorable moments. The Lions had a franchise record 15 wins last year, which is something we honestly may never see again. So even though the season ended leaving a sour taste in Lions fans' mouths, I still think it's important that we remember the 2024 season for being the best regular season in franchise history. And that's going to be what this series is all about. We're going to look back at the season that was to remember some of the best moments that the Lions had. Whether it was a jaw-dropping highlight, a crazy comeback, or a dominant drive, the moments that made up the 2024 season are worth revisiting. So join me as we count down the top 10 moments of the 2024 season for the Detroit Lions. So welcome in everyone to this new series here on the channel. My name is Zach Payne. If you've never been here before, welcome in. I am a Detroit Lions fan and I make Detroit Lions videos here on YouTube. And if you're returning, then welcome back. Regardless of if you're new or if you're returning, either way, I'm happy to have you. Real quick, if I could get you to hit that like button and subscribe with notifications turned on. It takes 5 seconds, and if you do those 3 things, it could really help the channel grow since it's a very small channel, so every little bit helps. So today is the first episode in this new series that is going to run throughout the off season because we're getting close to the dog days of the off season. OTAs are happening right now, and I'll do an OTAs recap at some point over the next few days, but after that, there's really not much going on for almost 2 months. So this series that is going to be a countdown of the top 10 moments will span across 10 weeks as we hopefully will fill the void of those dog days a little bit better as we inch closer towards next season. Now, I'm very loosely defining what a moment is because on this list, as you'll see, we have individual drives, we have individual performances, individual plays even, but we also have an entire game that you will get to in a few weeks. I also have some honorable mentions that this is just a list I generated on my own. So there are some honorable mentions. So depending on how this series goes, maybe I'll even sprinkle in a few of those like in mini episodes. I don't know, we'll see. For today, though, you all might be a little confused so far because all you know is the title, The Best Almost Horrible Decision. So without further ado, let's get into it and how Dan Campbell and his aggressiveness pushed the Lions over the top at home against the Green Bay Packers in Week 14. First, let's set the stage. The Lions coming into this game, they were flying about as high as they possibly could. They were riding a 10-game win streak, the longest win streak in franchise history. They were 11-1. They had just beat the Bears on Thanksgiving, and they were atop the NFC North and the NFC Conference in general. Everything was going fantastically, better, like as good as it possibly could. Record-wise, at least, because at this point in the season, the Lions' defense was dropping like flies. Aiden Hutchinson had long been injured. Alim McNeill had recently gotten hurt as well. Editing Zach here. Just a quick fact check. Alim McNeill was healthy in this game at this point, but the rest of the front seven was basically dead. So the point is still valid that the Lions were dealing with a lot of injuries. The defensive line was like just a hodgepodge of guys. The linebackers were dead. At this point, they were dead. It was Jack Campbell and his band of merry men at this point. It was not a fun situation to look at. Like, we were close to the Lions running guys off the street at this point, but record-wise, it was peachy. Then we get to this game. The Lions had already beaten the Packers earlier in the season in Lambeau Field in a game that wasn't particularly competitive. The Lions won by 10 points, and for most of the second half, they were up by 3 scores. It wasn't that close of a game. It was also raining and just wet, and the weather was So it was great for Lions fans. I enjoyed it. It was fun, but Packers fans, it was about as miserable of an experience as you can imagine. Jordan Love was also hurt in that game. He was playing through some sort of, I think it was a groin injury if I remember correctly. So this game, the Packers were looking for blood. But this game wasn't going well for the Packers at all in the first half. In fact, it was pretty similar to the game in Lambeau Field. The Lions took a 17-7 lead into the locker rooms as Jahmyr Gibbs scored on 4th and goal to end the first half, and everything was coming up Lions. The Packers were in desperate need of a spark, but then they remembered the Lions' front seven is dead, so they can't really get pressure. And also, for as good as guys like Terrion Arnold and Carlton Davis are and were last season, they're not very fast. And you know who is fast? Christian Watson. So Jordan Love just sends Christian Watson on a streak, sends a moon ball to him. And just like that, to start the second half, the Packers were inside the 15. And then Jordan Love hits Tucker Kraft on just a dart of a throw. And just like that, it's 17-14. You know, Jordan Love, to his credit, for as Jekyll and Hyde as he can be, when he's going, he can make some really, really good throws. He was slinging the rock in the second half, and he was the reason the Packers were able to put up so many points in the second half, and he drove their offense pretty much single-handedly for a lot of that game. Add in an interception from Jared Goff on the drive following that touchdown by the Packers, and Green Bay quickly took the lead after being down 10, and it was suddenly not looking great. The rest of the game was a complete shootout. These two teams were just trading blows back and forth, and Green Bay, they started the fourth quarter off by taking the lead with another touchdown, 28-24. Detroit then was able to answer that touchdown drive with a touchdown drive of their own with a big 10-play drive that took over 6 minutes off the clock. Then on the following Packers drive, at this point it's 31-28. Time is, we're about halfway through the fourth quarter when the drive starts, and the Packers take, some time off the clock as well. They get down a couple big plays to Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks. They get down into a goal-to-go situation, and on 2nd and goal, with a chance to take the lead, Jordan Love hits Josh Jacobs for the touchdown, but it gets called back due to offensive pass interference. Back it up, you can't do that. Then after an incomplete pass by Jordan Love, he tried to make something happen with his legs, and Ezekiel Turner made a great tackle in open field to drag him down and force a field goal. If you're wondering to yourself, who is Ezekiel Turner? That is precisely the predicament the Lions defense was in terms of injuries at this point in the season. It was not a good time, man. But the Packers kick a field goal. The game is tied. 3 minutes and 38 seconds to go. The Lions defense is holding on for dear life at this point. They've given up 24 points in the second half, and it was pretty clear. The Lions, if they were going to win this game, this needed to be the last drive. They could not afford to give the Packers the ball back because there was no way that Jordan Love wasn't going to drive the Packers into field goal range at minimum. So the Lions offense got to work. Big play to Jameson Williams, big play to Tim Patrick, and just like that, 2 plays in, they're over midfield, they're in Packers territory. They got down to 1st and 10 at the Packers 30 with 2 minutes to go in the game. This is about as good of a situation as you can possibly be in, but a holding call backs them up to 1st and 20. Then on 2nd and 17, it looks like they undo all of that. Jared Goff hits Amon-Ra St. Brown for a big gain, looks like it's a first down, but after review, it's ruled short, 3rd and 1. Packers call their final timeout. So a minute 27 to play. Packers are out of timeouts, 3rd and 1. If you get this first down, the game's basically over. You're in field goal range already. You just need a yard. So 3rd and 1, they run the ball and they get stuffed. 4th and 1, 43 seconds. Lions use one of their timeouts. What do you do? On the one hand, you can kick the field goal, 43 seconds left, and trust your defense with the Packers having no timeouts, and hopefully you just hang on for the win. But you risk them driving to tie it, and that's not a risk Dan Campbell was willing to take. Granted, if you go for it and don't get it, you're probably going to lose because then the Packers have 40 seconds. They are on their own 30, and they just need 30 yards to go win the thing, which they probably would have done. And if you're not a Lions fan, you might not understand the Dan Campbell mentality, what Dan Campbell brings to this team. Maybe you even underestimate him as good. Maybe you don't even think he's that good of a head coach. Maybe you think he was a coordinator merchant. I don't know. This is the value Dan Campbell brings. He brings a lot of things, but this is the primary thing he brings. So let's quickly travel back in time to the year 2019. At this point in time, Matt Patricia is coach of the Lions. It was a dark time. The Lions are in Lambeau Field playing against the Packers. It's a very close game. And Trey Flowers gets called for 2 phantom hands to the face calls, where his hand was in fact on David Bakhtiari's shoulder, and Bakhtiari was just whipping his head back to make it look like he was getting hit in the face, or he was just, being driven back by Trey Flowers because he's a powerful guy. And the refs got fooled by it. Both of those penalties were very consequential. One of them extended a drive, allowing the Packers to go score a touchdown rather than kick a field goal. And the other, at the end of the game, allowed the Packers to drain the rest of the time and kick a walk-off field goal. And after the game, Matt Patricia, for as many flaws as he had, he actually said something that was very true, is that the Lions put themselves in a position to where those calls, those consequential calls, could be that impactful in the game. And if you want to be a good team in this league, you cannot put yourself in a position where that can happen. You can't leave any doubt. And now Matt Patricia, he followed his own advice, and instead of putting himself in a position to get affected by calls, he just decided to get blown out in every game until he got fired, which, very commendable. He followed his own advice. You gotta respect it. But Dan Campbell doesn't leave things to chance. And, people talk about, Dan Gamble and the 4th down decisions and how he's a meathead and how he cost the Lions the NFC Championship a few years ago. First of all, no. Second of all, these decisions are a lot more analytically inclined than you may think, or considering, Dan Campbell, what he looks like. He looks like a meathead. I'll give you that. But he actually is really smart. You have to give him credit. He is a smart guy and he knows what he's doing. He is doing everything in his power to further the Lions' chances at victory. Anything he can do to take the Lions' odds at winning up a % or 2, he'll do it. That's what these 4th downs are about. You see all these charts about should you go for it, should you punt it in every situation. The Lions are actually really good at going for it when they should. In fact, if you look at the win probability added, the Lions are at the top of the league because, yes, they go for it a lot, but it's because a lot of teams don't go for it when they probably ought to. Yes, those decisions sometimes come back to haunt you, like in the NFC Championship game where a Josh Reynolds drop is suddenly super consequential, but at the same time, those types of decisions are the reason that the Lions are so good. They won 15 games last year. They won 12 games the year before. And I'm not saying that they are bad if they go for it less on 4th down, but the 2 games against the Packers last season, they probably don't win without 4th down decisions like this. In fact, both games were pretty much exclusively decided by 4th downs in terms of the Lions' ability to convert on them in key situations, and this was no different. 4th and 1, 43 seconds left, your opponent has no timeouts, you get the 1st down, you basically win the game. There was never a question here. The Lions were always going to go for it. So the Lions line up to go for it, and
they are going. And then Goff falls down, but Montgomery is able to pick up the 1st down. So Goff falls down as he's making the handoff, and this should seal it. They'll run the clock down, kick the field goal. What a call!
Nearly a disaster in the making as Goff stumbles and nearly falls down, but he gets the ball to David Montgomery. The blocking holds up. 1st down. Jake Bates lines up, kicks the field goal through the uprights. Lions fans go home happy. They complete the season sweep of the Packers and they move to 12-1. What a time to be alive that was a real thing. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this series, whether you enjoy it, and what moments you really remember from the 2024 season. And who knows, maybe I'll alter my list a little bit if you guys have some good suggestions. But yeah, just leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Aside from that, though, remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you really liked it, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. That's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.